And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. Oh, some shout-outs on our Facebook live stream. Yes, if anybody wants to watch the video, we're live on the Facebook live stream. Had a little trouble in the beginning, but we should be okay now. Thank you, Nancy, Jonathan, Alex, for tuning in. Alex had a question from our quotes of the day. What about people recovering from, say, an addiction? The thought or compulsion to act out is retarded if one is in recovery. Is a higher power necessary? So when it comes to addiction, it's an interesting energy, and it's one that is inherent. It's kind of almost like a tendency that the person has with their energy that's not necessarily about the substance, but it's more sort of an internal feeling, that an internal energetic pattern that needs to be worked out. Is a higher power necessary? I'm not quite sure. You know, a lot of people have different terms that they usually use. A higher power. I know a lot of 12-step programs think that way. And to me, there is a higher power, but that higher power is within us. We are part of that higher power. We are not separate and distinct from it. So when we call upon the higher power, it's the higher power within ourselves, and it's the higher power is the connection to ourselves. And yes, you can have a thought or compulsion to do something, but it's still a choice. You know, it always comes down to a choice. You know, if you're, I don't know, if you're an Oxycontin addict, you always have a choice whether you put that pill into your mouth or not. Now, the thing is the consequences of that choice, which if you don't put in the pill, you're in a lot of pain. And if you do put it in, you feel better. But then there are other things. You know, it's still a choice. It's just that the pain may be so intense, or we don't want to experience the pain so much. So we choose, you know, to put that pill in our mouth. So it is always a choice, and that's where the power is. Now, we may feel like we don't have a choice. We may feel like we don't have the ability to choose differently. That comes from the meaning that we make from it. That comes from our identity. And there are ways to shift and change that. So it's a very complex question, Alex. I appreciate it. I'll have to one day get an addiction expert on and spend a whole show on it, because it really is the kind of question that a whole hour should be devoted to it. But anyway, thank you for asking. So Sebhia, so you met Dr. Mikosi through this wonderful stuff you discovered around the importance of hydration, which is very, very important for our physical body. Anybody who's done any kind of energy work or trainers or anybody knows that, like, one of the main things is to make sure that our body is hydrated properly, as it's just a foundational thing before going on. Like, now we're understanding this is part of it. But how did you guys, like, come to decide to write this book about chronic pain? Was it like a project that Mark already had that you joined in? Was it an idea you had that Mark joined in, or was it something that the two of you kind of came up together with?
Yeah, so Mark had this, you know,
and he's written like a million books already.
He's written so many books. He's written so many books. And I think it came about, you know, he had some content, and we were talking about my past. And from an energetic standpoint, too. You know, when you're a child, and that goes back to, I think, you know, it's kind of like it attaches to everything. You know, the person that just asked the question, you know, regarding addiction. You know, we are shaped as a child by, you know, everything. We have the ability to change over time. I went through pain, and it was emotional. Right. At a very young age, to the point where it paralyzed me. I was under extreme anxiety, had learning disabilities, and I wasn't able to, you know, really, really speak at all. It was really difficult to connect with people. I had a tough childhood. So it was...
Where did you grow up? I'm just curious.
I grew up in Katona.
Oh, in Katona, New York.
In Westchester County, yeah.
Yes, I know that area.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and when you're a kid, you're like, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
but I did appreciate, we went over the bridge every now and then.
Yeah.
There was a reservoir, and I'd always look at the sunset and this and that. So I'm totally nature, crazy about nature now. I'm always going on hikes and everything.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
But he had this idea of bringing me onto the project, and beyond that too, specifically this. And he said, "Let me see what you've got." But I wanted to do something even more than this, to bring an energetic standpoint, which I feel that is not really in academic literature.
Oh,
Still,
absolutely. Yeah,
maybe in
still
physics,
very much on the fringe, yeah.
but it's still, everyone's thinking of it as more spiritual route. But I think, medicine now and, certain things that our bodies are capable of, really flowing with is frequency and energy.
Right.
And I noticed through meditation that I was able to change the way I think, the way I feel about myself. And going back to that higher power, I just wanted to I wanted to speak about that because I think in all of us, like you said, we do have a higher power. I also believe that we sometimes feel the need to give our life or, our purpose isn't big enough, so we have to kind of put it on something else or someone else. And that's more of, I think, like you said, a mindset. But also, in order to really heal and be connected, you have to be connected to yourself.
Right.
Right. More than anything
Absolutely.
else.
Yeah, totally. When did you kind of develop this sort of spiritual side, / energetic kind of side to you? I mean, I understand you had, trauma, you had difficulties as a child. Like, when did it like kind of come to you like, oh, there's like something more than this physical world to us?
I realized that a lot of this energy I was harnessing that prevented me from also, in my mind it was all there, but I felt everything as a child. I didn't really think thoughts. I was more feeling. So that, I mean, if you just think about feelings in general, it's feelings. You're feeling these, emotions, even beyond emotions. I felt connected to the present moment at times. And I realized that this energy can be controlled and it doesn't have to be, all over the place.
Right.
And that's when I started really getting into spirituality, meditation.
Was there anything in particular that, like an incident or someone you met or a book that put you on the path, or was it just sort of a natural evolution?
It was a natural evolution.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Eckhart Tolle was
yes.
and I based, a lot of my life earlier now on intuition. I walked by one of his books in Barnes & Nobles. I told myself to stop. I looked down, and there was his book.
Which
I
one,
bought
Power
it.
of Now or New Earth?
Power of Now. And I got, that one later on. Yeah. And that completely, it took me like a year to read that.
Oh, yeah. These books are so dense. Yeah.
Because I was like, finally, there's some education and intelligence out there.
Yeah.
And then I also read Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman.
Yes.
And that really brought together, IQ and academic for me, because I was more into emotional intelligence and just really connecting on that level.
And so when you started off, were you kind of always on this trajectory of kind of going into the healing arts, or were you doing something else and then kind of shifted your life around?
I was always going.
You were always going to? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So this book on overcoming acute and chronic pain. Now, pain is something that a lot of people feel, and there's all kinds of pain. What was kind of the take? Maybe if you can just kind of briefly summarize for our audience, like what was the sort of purpose behind writing this book with Dr. Mikosi, and what you were hoping to achieve together with it?
Basically, physical pain.
Okay, so that specifically physical pain.
Everything is in there. Mark and I were talking earlier today. I know he can't be on the call today, but we were talking about what is the leading cause of death in the United States, and it's not getting this book. It's basically.
All right, very, very careful. So everyone, get everyone out there and get this book if you want to stick around for a while.
But no, in all seriousness, chronic pain. it costs $700 billion a year. I mean, the United States is
Wow.
spending more money than any other part of the entire planet on healthcare, and we're really not doing anything.
Right.
And everything's pretty much medical medications,
Yeah.
just like, all medical, you go in, you visit the doctor, he prescribes medication.
Right.
I know a lot of doctors who are really, really, and it's not a jab against the community, it's actually what they're learning.
Right.
That
right,
goes
right.
back to academic literature and like what's in the
Absolutely.
books. And that's also where I'm trying to make an imprint.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. So I know there's a lot in this book, from things like acupuncture, Chinese medicine, herbs. I'm assuming like the biofeedback and the more energetic sides are kind of like your contributions to it. So what do you feel is like one of the like starting points for somebody who's new to this realm of energy medicine and sort of the, dare I say, more woo-woo stuff? like how would somebody who's just experiencing physical pain, what's an alternative to just taking some painkiller for them? Where would you start somebody?
So a lot of people that, I don't want to say a lot of people, but meditation, everyone says they can't do it. I mean, for the most part. I mean, it's just I can't do it. I can't sit still. I can't do that. But that's a choice. It goes back to a choice. You actually can.
Well, I think there's a huge misperception about what meditation actually is, and people kind of have this preconception in mind that they have to sit cross-legged on the floor with a candle and incense burning and the curtains drawn, and like if you're not sitting, and you have absolutely no thoughts in your mind, and if you can't do that, you can't meditate, and that's totally not what meditation is.
Absolutely. And I'm actually working with Mark and Don McCown on another book right now.
Cool.
It's a textbook in mindfulness and meditation. Now, you touched upon something that's very, distinct. Meditation is more, in my, is internal. You're really, you're making yourself on the inside still. Not necessarily on the outside.
Right.
Mindfulness is more action-based. You're doing something, but you're being mindful about it.
Right.
You're eating. You're making sure you're chewing your food properly, so you're digesting properly.
Right.
You're more mindful with people, communication. It's more of an outside external. Meditation and mindfulness, I think, can be considered the two starting points, in my opinion, when changing any part of your life.
Okay.
Because it goes back to habit.
Right. So those are kind of like the foundational things. So first,
it creates
about
an awareness.
Yeah. So it's about being more mindful, which is like more present to things going on. And then I always consider meditation to be a gift that we give ourselves, to just be present with ourselves.
Definitely.
And so we start there. Okay, wonderful. So that's how we're going to get started. And when we come back, we'll talk about where we can go from there. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, with my guest, Sebhia Marie Dibra, co-author of the book, Overcoming Acute and Chronic Pain. We'll be right back after these messages.